Let's get started. Start with listening, and then learn new words and practice them in sentences.
Ever wondered how to start a conversation with a stranger? It's a question that has crossed most of our minds at some point. The ability to start a conversation effectively is a skill that can open doors to new opportunities and relationships. So, let's dive into the art of initiating a conversation. The first step to starting a conversation is to be friendly and genuine. Your demeanor sets the tone for the interaction, and people are more likely to engage if they feel comfortable. A warm smile or a friendly nod can be a great way to break the ice. But remember, authenticity is key. People can sense when you're being genuine, so it's important to be yourself. Now let's talk about the words. There are a few tried and true phrases that can get a conversation off the ground. For example, you might ask, "How was your weekend?" This is a simple yet effective question that shows you're interested in the person's life outside of the immediate context. Another common conversation starter is commenting on the weather. It might seem cliché, but saying something like, "Nice weather today, isn't it?" can actually be a great way to initiate a conversation. It's a neutral topic that everyone can relate to, and it can easily lead to other topics. The key to using these phrases effectively is to pay attention to the other person's response. If they give a short answer, it might mean they're not interested in chatting, but if they provide a detailed response, it's a good sign they're open to conversation. For example, if they mention a movie they saw over the weekend, you could ask about that movie or share your thoughts if you've seen it too. This brings us to another important point. Showing interest in what the other person is saying not only keeps the conversation going, but also makes the person feel valued. So listen attentively and respond with thoughtful comments or questions. Remember, starting a conversation is about setting a pleasant tone and showing genuine interest in the other person. It's not about impressing them or dominating the conversation. It's about creating a space where both of you feel comfortable sharing and connecting. Now that you've started a conversation, how do you keep it going? This is where the real art of small talk comes into play. It's not just about starting a conversation, but also about keeping it alive, engaging, and meaningful. And the secret to that? Open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are inquiries that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. They prompt the other person to share more about their thoughts, feelings, or experiences. For example, instead of asking, "Do you like art?" which can be answered with a brief yes or no, you could ask, "What do you think about contemporary art?" Or, "Have you ever tried creating your own artwork?" These questions invite a more detailed response, providing a springboard for further discussion. However, it's not enough to just ask these questions. To truly engage with someone, you need to listen actively to their responses. Active listening means fully focusing on the speaker, showing interest, and responding in a way that moves the conversation forward. It's about more than just waiting for your turn to speak. It's about showing genuine interest in what the other person has to say. Let's say your conversation partner mentions they've recently taken up gardening. You could respond with something like, "That's interesting. What inspired you to start gardening?" This not only shows that you were listening, but also invites them to share more. Remember, conversations are not about winning or showing off, but about connection and understanding. So be curious, be open, and most importantly, be yourself. This isn't a scripted performance. It's an opportunity to connect with another human being. So to recap, to keep a conversation going, ask open-ended questions that invite deeper responses. Listen actively to what the other person says and respond in a way that shows you're interested and engaged. By doing this, you'll not only keep the conversation flowing, but also build a stronger connection with the person you're talking to. So, to keep a conversation going, ask open-ended questions and be an active listener. Group conversations can be tricky, can't they? They require a delicate balance of listening and contributing, all while ensuring you're not stepping on anyone's toes. So how can you navigate these waters with grace and ease? To join an ongoing group discussion smoothly, it's important to first observe the conversation. This will give you a sense of the topic, the tone, and the dynamics between the individuals involved. Once you've got a handle on these elements, you can find an appropriate moment to add your thoughts. When you decide to contribute, make sure your comment or question is relevant to the ongoing discussion. You might say something like, "That's an interesting point, Jake. It reminds me of a time when..." Or, "I see what you're saying, Lisa. How do you think that would apply to..." This way, you're building on what others have said, showing that you've been listening and that you value their input. Now, what about when you're interrupted or when disagreements arise? It's all too common in group conversations, isn't it? But don't worry, there's a polite and effective way to handle these situations too. If you're interrupted, you can gently reclaim your time by saying, "Just to finish my point," or "If I could complete my thought." And if a disagreement crops up, remember that it's okay to have different opinions. You can express your viewpoint respectfully by saying, "I see where you're coming from, but have you considered?" Or "That's one way to look at it, but from my perspective." Above all, remember that the goal of a group conversation is not to dominate, but to collaborate. It's about exchanging ideas, learning from others, and building relationships. So even when things get heated, strive to keep the atmosphere positive and respectful. In group conversations, remember to observe before joining in and always be respectful of others. With these strategies in your communication toolbox, you'll be well equipped to navigate group conversations like a pro. So, go out there and join the discussion. All good things must come to an end, and that includes conversations. Indeed, knowing how to wrap up a chat gracefully is as crucial as starting one. It's like the cherry on top of a sundae. It leaves a lasting impression. So how do you swing this without seeming rude or abrupt? Well, it all comes down to the choice of words and delivery. Let's explore some phrases you can use to signal the end of a conversation. One approach is to express your appreciation for the conversation. You might say, "It was great talking to you, but I have to go now." This phrase is respectful, appreciative, and straightforward. It acknowledges the value of the interaction and clearly communicates that you need to leave. Another polite phrase to end a conversation could be, "I've enjoyed our chat, but I don't want to keep you any longer." This puts the emphasis on respecting the other person's time, showing that you're considerate. If you wish to keep the door open for future discussions, you could say, "Let's catch up again soon." This phrase is warm and friendly, suggesting that you enjoyed the chat and are looking forward to the next one. Remember, it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. Your tone, body language, and facial expressions should match your words. Maintain eye contact, keep your tone friendly, and use a smile to underscore your sincerity. Moreover, try to end on a high note. Compliment the other person, express gratitude for their time, or mention something positive about your conversation. This leaves a good impression and makes the other person feel valued. In conclusion, ending a conversation politely is an art. It requires a balance of tact, sincerity, and respect. It's not about making a swift exit, but about wrapping up the conversation in a way that respects the other person and the time you've spent together. Ending a conversation politely is just as important as starting one. Remember to leave on a positive note.
Let's learn new words and practice English at level B2. Icebreaker. Icebreaker, a simple comment or question that starts a conversation. Example, asking about the weather is often a good icebreaker at social events. Engage. Engage, to participate or become involved in a conversation. Example, it's important to engage actively in small talk to show interest in the other person. Body language. Body language, nonverbal communication through gestures, facial expressions, and posture. Example, positive body language, like smiling and nodding, helps in making small talk more comfortable. Transition. Transition, a smooth shift from one topic to another. Example, you can transition from talking about work to hobbies by asking, "What do you like to do in your free time?" Mutual interest. Mutual interest, a shared topic or hobby that both people enjoy. Example, finding mutual interests makes small talk more engaging and helps build a connection.